Hello my fellow gamers and Cities Skylines fans, and welcome to Designing New Cities episode 8. As you remember, this city is my city called ColdSnap, and this is the first city that I started building in this let's play. I will show you also the Spiral City during this video, and I will announce the creation of a third totally new city, which is going to be about fishing and is going to feature a totally new kind of a design. Now as for this design and ColdSnap, I have started making a new district called Work and Jobs. In this one, I'm going to do something novel. I'm going to try and combine industry as Industry 4.0 and office zones. So I'm going to zone some industry, and in between I'm going to have some office zones to try and reduce the amount of traffic that the industry is going to create. This industry is going to be generic industry, but I will be using the policy to create Industry 4.0 because I do have a lot of Sims which have been highly educated. So they should find jobs here very easily. I'm going to use tax relief for offices here as well. As for the services, recycling, pet ban, which shouldn't even be necessary, smoking ban, smoke detector distribution, and I think that's about it. Maybe parks and recreation as well. And as for this part, I'm going to go for industry space planning to get more of the goods produced in this industry, even though itself it produces 50% more than the regular one, so there should be a large amount of goods produced there. And I think that I do need a lot of them because I'm importing around 600 to 800 goods, so I need those goods produced. And you can see that I have a healthy industry demand because I have 20% unemployment, and this is with this area, 9 to 5 area, not even filled to capacity with all the homes that I could build here, because this area here hasn't managed to spend all of my Sims and give them work. Now as for the connection to the highway for this area, I have created some tunnels that I'm going to show you right now. So these ramps here coming off of this highway, which is my highway that brings in the traffic, are taking a detour from this ramp that's already in existence and going down like this. And then over here it enters this area. From here they can choose to enter this new area here, while for the other highway you do not see a ramp. This is because I've joined these two ramps into one. So while I have the traffic from this incoming highway here, I have another ramp coming off of here which also has been branched out and then enters this ramp. So this ramp is alone going to be driving the traffic in. Now I will have some additional ramps that will go into the middle of this area so that the traffic won't just be coming off of from here, but also several places in here. But before I start zoning, I do need to show you the idea here. I have these parallel streets which are 2-lane one-way streets, and they all go in this direction up, and this is where the Sims will be going back to their homes through here. You know how this works. This one goes down, Sims go back to work, and this one over here, well, you cannot see it from the highway, this one over here takes the Sims to their jobs. Now I might add some underground ones, although I could start getting some public transportation as I do have a lot of Sims using cars, as you can see here. Now you might notice that these trucks are moving much faster than these cars here. This is because I used the traffic manager's option to increase the speed on these roads. So these trucks have the 80 speed limit, while these cars have only the 40, which is why I'll be raising the speed limit on the entirety of this road here so that they can get to these areas faster. But not to bother you with that, I'll do it a bit later. Now going back to Work and Jobs, my new district, like I said, I need to add some offices and industrial, and this is the design I chose. So to go back a few steps, the parallel 2-lane one-ways go up, and then in between we have these interesting crosses with the 2-lane two-ways, which start from here, go above this one. This starts from the left side and then they cross, and there's also a third one which crosses from down here up to here, and it's going to be interesting to see how the traffic finds its way around here. Now I'm going to be using, for example, one factory, two offices, and then see how that goes. This is the same design that I'm going to use on this side over here, and I'm just gonna start zoning some first buildings here. Now I am not going to zone anything here because I think this is where the services might be, so I'm going to zone up here. So some offices, I'll use this tool to get the 4x4 buildings. So these would be two offices, and then the first industrial building would be over here, although that's not the same street, so maybe over here. Then two offices here, and then you see the pattern showing for you here. I'll leave some space here then another industry building here, and so forth and so on. So I'll fill this area in with industry and offices. I'll put the services over here at the beginning of these streets, but I don't have power connection here currently, so I'll use this. And you'll notice that I do have a lot of traffic moving along these streets, but the good thing is most of the traffic keeps flowing. I do have a problem when they need to cross from here to over here. This is because it ended up being so that all of these buildings, the forestry industry, they create the products from, for example, the woody woods, and they then send it to the planks for life. But because of the one ways I created here, for example, this building will create some raw products, and then the truck has to go all the way here, go down here, go over here, and then go back to actually get to the original wood products for that raw product to be created into something that's actually a forestry product. So there is a little bit of an issue with the roads that I will have to rethink, or at least reduce the amount of the production, as to say the number of buildings. But as this area has gained enough power, it's now operational, and we can see the first buildings going up. Now this is something that I'll keep doing along this entire area, and like I said, I'll add the services over here with the police, fire, health, and I think that's about it, as long as I add some parks as well for good measure, although I won't be using bouncing castles like I did in my Bedrock Let's Play. I use here for more ordinary parks, which will do good for the industry and commercial buildings. I'll choose a nice spot here. There we go. And with a few of these parks, this should be covered nicely, and they should be able to level up easily with the access to services and highly educated sims. This number keeps going up, which is great. I have noticed people going from here to the university all the way here. I was kind of confused by that. It's probably some pathfinding issue, because this university has plenty of space for those students, so they shouldn't be taking a drive from here all the way up here to get to this university. Now, this is pretty much everything that I wanted to cover in this part of the video for ColdSnap. I'm now going to take you to my Spiral City, my Great Spiral City, for you to see how much progress I've been making over there. And here we are, back to the Great Spiral City. You can see that I've added a few more rings and the city has grown. It's now over 8,000 population strong, and in case you haven't been following this Let's Play closely and not seeing how I built this, you can check out the video that I'll be linking up here. It's the first video of building this beautiful Grand Spiral City. Now, while I was adding these new rings, I've kind of managed to fix the problem which I had in the previous episode, where my spiral was getting kind of fat. And it was getting a bit straight here on the left and right side, and was getting kind of flat up here and down here. But I've kind of managed to fix that with the streets, and I have added a lot new rings, like I said. And I've also added some new districts, as you can see here. There's a new generic industry 4.0 over here. There is a new forestry industry district up here. Now, as you can see, I've used up pretty much a lot of this original district, which I will now expand to give myself more room. The build has been going quite nicely. I haven't reached any major issues, except maybe for the trash that requires picking up here from the middle of the Spiral City, and I'll show you this real quickly. I have the incinerator here, which covers about 2 to 3 rings, and then I have these waste transfer facilities, one here and one here, which then send their trucks to pick up the garbage from the other rings, and then that garbage is taking all the way the waste processing complex, and I had to add 2 just to make sure that they send enough trucks to pick up all the garbage from these 2 buildings. I plan to enable this area to grow at least 1 or 2 more rings, and as you can see, it is a generic industry and it is 4.0. It's not really totally clean industry. As you can see, if I go to the pollution overlay, there is quite a lot of pollution here, but luckily when it goes into the backyard of the industry, it only just reaches the residential buildings behind it, and I haven't seen any of these residents saying that they have a problem with the pollution. So for now, even though they do sometimes send a tweet that they have some pollution, but they do not seem to be getting sick from it. So as long as this industry keeps being 4.0 and reduces the amount of pollution it creates, these teams should be fine living close by. As for the Sims distribution, there is only a small percentage of unemployed. I seem to have managed to make a good distribution of the residential areas, the industry and the commercial areas, so that only a few teams will be unemployed, and considering that they upgrade these buildings and then more families can move into them, then I have more workers and I make sure to add industry to soak up those workers. Now, some people have expressed that they are not sure how exactly the city is going to work because it's a spiral and vehicles have to move in circles all the time. Well, you don't see it from here, but if I go underneath, you'll be able to see that there are a lot of tunnels. But these tunnels here are mainly for the services and the industry, because the industry has to intertwine between the production of products and goods, and then for the goods to be produced, the products have to get to it, and also the services, especially when it comes to the waste generation. I have to have a way for this building to send out its vehicles onto this ring, for example, get onto the next ring, and then find a way to get back to its original building in order to deposit that waste. So that is the reason why I have had to have some entrances and exits off of these rings with the highway ramps underground, so that the vehicles can go back to their original building once they finish going through a ring or two. Now here you can see an example of a dead person waiting for transport, because the first hearse is probably a full ring away. As for the roads themselves, I have increased the speed to 70 on each new piece of road that I make. So if I go, and I think I've shown you this before, to speed 3, you can see just how fast these vehicles move about in these spirals and these circles and these rings, however you want to call them. And the main issue that I have is only the agricultural trucks, which kind of take up both lanes when they are parking into a building to do their delivery, and then they can create kind of a stoppage in traffic. As for the others, they don't seem to be causing that issue. But as the spiral does keep growing, I'll probably have more problems, and I'll show you how I'm going to solve them. Now on to the newest and the third city that I'm going to be building in this Let's Play Designing New Cities. For my newest city in this Let's Play, I've decided to make a city that's going to be all about little fishing towns. This is why I've chosen one of the maps from the newest DLC for Cities Skylines, Sunset Harbor, and I'm going to use it to create small fishing villages which are going to be interconnected but not very close to each other, nor are they going to be large. Although there is going to be one area that I'm going to try and figure out where it's going to be, but probably over here, which is going to be like a center, like an office industry central for these fishing villages. Now this is something that is still in the design stage, but I'll show you just some of the ideas I have had for this. So using the highways, I was planning on doing something like this, where I would use my tree design, which would be going like this. So this one goes like this, and then the other one goes like this. And I have a lot of room in between these two highways, maybe not this much, but you'll get the point. Now I'll just give myself a little bit more space, so like this. And I'll have the ability for the traffic to go onto the both sides of this highway. Now the idea here is that this highway going off to the right is going to allow the traffic to go like this, and then I'm going to actually have a runabout here. This isn't something that I usually use, but it's an idea that I've had and I want to check it out and see how it's going to work out. So a runabout that would look something like this. It would be about this size, but the trick about it would be that on the, well, it's not really a good runabout this way. I'll try and fix it. I think I'm having a problem with the snap tools. Yeah, those really give you trouble when you want to get a circle. So it's not really great, but like I said, this is just to give you a picture. So the highway off-ramps are coming in onto the outer lane of this highway. And from here, I'm going to have off-ramps which are going to lead into the city, probably 2 or 3 depending on how big the runabout is. So let's say currently there are 2 because of the size of the runabout. If it was a bit bigger, there would be 3. But the trick that's going to be happening here is that the incoming traffic will be using the outer sides of this highway to exit onto the fishing village that's over here. But for the people in the fishing village to get to the highway, I'll be using the tunnels going underneath this, and then they will go into these highways on the inner lanes of the highway. And I'll have not one, but several of these that are going to be coming in onto the highway from different parts of the city. And another one from here. So something like this. And then the inner highway exits with a ramp that returns the traffic to the highway. For example, something like this. Now, I'm not sure is this actually going to work out properly, but like I said, I had this idea and I really wanted to test it out. So this is a design that you will see tested out in one of the next videos in this Let's Play. Now I would like to thank you for watching and wish you all happy holidays and happy gaming.